had a podcast for years now, maybe 10 years. I've been on radio. I've done podcasting. It really has grown my career, for those that don't know. It has really grown my career, but my word, content is really freaking hard. And so who's joining me today is a very qualified individual who will help us with that. Mike Russell of Music Radio Creative joins us on the Justin Brady Show. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, Justin, man, it's so cool to be here, and I can't wait to dive into creating amazing content and being productive every day.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, being productive, because I am going to ask about your workflow and process, because you're a workhorse, and I just see just never-ending content. And there have been as I've started to work with clients on podcasting and content, a lot of the things I built up over the past decade, I'm like, oh, they don't know how to do that stuff. And one of them is, now you and I both have a history in radio, so I'm going to ask you about that. But in radio, like, you are a victim to the deadline. You don't have a choice. You have to produce. You don't have a choice. And so let me go way back. You started the YouTube channel. It's crossed 300,000 now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Real quick background. I hired you to troubleshoot some audio stuff because I saw a YouTube thing and I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. And then I saw the little YouTube thing in the background. I'm like, wait, how many subscribers do you have? You're like, oh, I hit crossed 100,000. I'm like, what? I had no idea. So anyway, let's go backwards. What was the start? You started in 2005, I believe, with your YouTube content, right? And correct me if I'm wrong there, but what was the original problem you were solving? Were you just bored? Did you have a goal in mind? Tell me about that story.
Oh, it's a great way to start, Justin. Thanks for asking. So yeah, 2005 was a key year. That's when the business started, Music Radio Creative. So we first started serving people around the world. And initially it was just me providing voiceovers. So it was essentially a way in the early days of the internet for me to get my voice out there, get production skills out there, and start working with clients around the world. And it's just grown from there. Moving on from my days in radio, which go all the way back to the 90s, would you believe?
What?
I edited with tape and razor blade.
What?
Yeah,
90s?
right.
Goodness gracious.
I was there before any digital audio editor was available or any kind of cloud-based recording system was available. Editing in the old school way. With a Revox machine.
Oh, that's rough.
And I really believe that gave me the background to be able to start a YouTube channel. And actually, I uploaded my first video in 2010. So Justin, it took me 5 years to get the courage to actually put something out there after starting the business. And when I did, it was a very simple video about my favorite effects for radio jingles. And I put it out there. I didn't expect anything from it. YouTube was obviously in the very early days as well. There was no monetization on the platform. There was no real path for a creator to make it into their full-time thing. But what I did realize very early on when I started and uploaded those first videos was they were starting to get hundreds of views. And then I left it for a bit and came back, and then they were getting thousands of views. And then after a little while, maybe a few months, they were getting tens or hundreds of thousands of views. And that's the point at which I thought, I should probably do a few more videos. People are finding this helpful, so why not? And then eventually, I can't remember what year it was, YouTube switched on the option to monetize. And I was one of their early partners to apply to that program and get in. And now it's all I ever hear from people. It's like all the kids today are like, my son included, is like, I want to be a YouTuber.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It's a new pro athlete now.
Yeah.
You know, like it's and it for good reason, because we see that YouTube's completely disrupting like traditional media. Right now, I don't think traditional media is ever going to go away. You and I have a radio background. I think that's going to be here to stay. But it's not the only game in town anymore. They've got competition now. So what you just started because you're like, this will be fun. You didn't really think it was going to be your business at all?
Yeah, exactly. I started because I wanted to share the knowledge, and I quickly realized that I was solving a lot of problems for people. So I quickly realized that it's like, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know, right? And I thought, well, everyone should surely know how to record their voice and tidy it up and publish it online. But I soon realized that a lot of people didn't know how to do those things and how to produce it and do all the noise reduction things like that. So I started to teach that. Now, with that said, I firmly believe that my background in radio, as you've mentioned, Justin, really helped set me up to create good content on YouTube. It set me up with staples such as, yes, I need it done yesterday.
Yeah.
Get it to me now. Deadline. And then all of the stuff that, you and I would hear in radio that, you've got to promote what's coming up, keep people hooked in, give people a reason to keep listening, all of that. So I think that set me up for success. Maybe I didn't even know it in the early days of YouTube. And just at the start of this year, I started a new channel and again, hit the ground running because of the experience I got on YouTube. So it's a great platform, but yeah, definitely having that background in traditional media has helped tremendously.
You mentioned like hooks and getting people hooked in. You mentioned deadlines, stuff like that. I'm going to get into that because that's a lot of really key information I find a lot of corporate clients aren't aware of. A lot of corporate clients have the idea in their head that if we just create good content, people will find it. And that actually doesn't happen ever. Like you do have to, there are a lot of these little things that you have to inject into your content to get it to go anywhere. But I want to back up a little bit. You mentioned some dates, and I think this is key. How long before you started producing content then like starting to grow that YouTube channel? How long was it before you started to grow the YouTube channel and then you actually started making some real money and seeing some real income off of it? And obviously we're not going to discuss numbers because then everyone's going to be asking you for rides in your private jets and on your yachts and stuff like that. Just kidding. But how long was the time from when you actually started producing content to when you actually started seeing like good results generally?
Wow, that is such a good question. As you were asking me the question, I actually pulled my YouTube studio up in front of me. So I can give you exact
Nice.
dates.
Okay. Perfect.
So I can tell you that I registered for YouTube, for a YouTube account on the 21st of December, 2006.
Okay.
That's when I first registered the account.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't publish anything, as I said, till about early 2010. I think it was about February 2010. So again, 4 years until I actually put the first video out there. And as I scroll along my timeline, and I can tell you that wow, the views started off actually, yes, back it was February 2010, 0 views on my channel. Now I can scroll along the timeline and tell you that by the end of that year, I had a total of 250 views on all my videos. So I spent a year working on YouTube in the early days and had 250 views. Now, it really started to take off in 2011 and 2012. That's when it started to really take off. But I didn't get my first payment from YouTube until the 25th of January, 2012. So that was nearly 2 years of working on YouTube before I got my first payment, my first income that came in on that day of $1.04.
Oh, yeah. Rolling in the cash. This lines up with like my own kind of experience as well. And now keep in mind for the listeners, like you were early on YouTube. So you were in there early. So I would guess maybe unless your content is like super unique and you have people that like have well-established connections ready to push it out, I would imagine today it might be even longer. But what is that? It's almost 3 years until you started seeing any kind of results at all. Now, I don't know how much you're making today, but I know it's full-time for you now, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a full-time job.
And when did you go full-time then?
So
and just
I was
generally,
in a very fortunate position. Definitely, yeah. So to be general about it, I was in the fortunate position to already have a business that was starting to grow in 2011, 2012. Yeah. So that was a critical year in my timeline, really, of 2011, pretty much the end of 2011 was where I left full-time radio as well.
Okay.
So it was a big critical junction point there for me. And then I was fortunate that our business, Music Radio Creative, grew and grew, started working with many clients around the world, producing radio imaging packages, voiceovers and music and jingles for business.
There's some big ones too. You can name Emirates, Adobe,
absolutely,
Rode. There's some huge clients in there.
Absolutely, yeah, those kind of things. Costa Coffee, for those of you who know in the UK, and even for a while I was the voice of the London Eye as well.
Yeah, didn't know that.
That's right. So it all started to grow, and really, when I actually look at my timeline of YouTube, I can tell you that it started to turn into something substantial probably around 2018 to 2019.
Goodness.
So I was working away on the business. It was referring a lot of customers to our business. So really in the early days, it wasn't about making money or monetizing on YouTube. It was about people watching me produce jingles and edit audio and saying, right, that guy's great. I want to go and use his business to get my jingle, my voiceover, or indeed, as we've worked together, Justin, to have some consulting and figure out some audio technicalities. And then actually the time where the channel really grew significantly was during actually 2020 and the whole COVID crisis, and everybody was turning around.
Interesting.
Saying, I need to start something.
Wow, that's crazy. So this is why I ask these questions, because you're super polished. For those watching the podcast, by the way, Mike, this is the very first video podcast I've done on the Justin Brady Show with you, because I knew that I'd have to up my game. I'm just worked with him. He's going to be like, dude, where's the video? Come on, man. So I was like, I gotta pick up my game for Mike here. But as you're illustrating, 2006, 2010, 2012, 2018, that's a long time. And I think a lot of, when I talk to CEOs in organizations looking into podcasting or looking into content, they're like, yeah, we did this thing and we tried it for 6 months, and this is a long conversation, but like the strategy was terrible and nothing happened, and so we canceled it. I'm like, 6 months? I was like, I didn't even start to see any traction in my business until 3 years after starting it and sticking with it. Now, that being said, once I stuck with it after that 3-year period, it really started to make my career. But does it, like I said, unless you have a baked in audience, does it generally take this long for anything to get going these days?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It does come down to that key thing you hear said a lot, being consistent.
Yeah.
So deciding you're going to do something and keep going with it. Don't try it for, 6 months. Give it a little bit longer. Set yourself goals and be measurable as to what do you want to see? How much do you want to grow? And those kind of things. I think I would actually say that it is potentially easier to grow faster now if you know what you're doing on the platform. Because if you know what you're doing, for instance, I can give the example of my new channel that I started this year.
Please.
Called Creator Magic, and it's all about AI. And so and I'm sure we'll get a little bit into the AI route later on. This is, I've always been into technology, so it's always been an interest of mine. And now I get to teach it and experiment with this new YouTube channell. And what I've discovered over time very quickly is the kind of content that people want. And as I find the stuff, I think the main thing is, the big piece of advice I would give to any business, any CEO, entrepreneur out there thinking of starting something up, just get started and put content out there. Find out what your audience like. You can always adjust later. And I'm finding that now with the new YouTube channel. I'm finding certain topics, I'll put a video out and it'll do really well. And when you find those topics, just double down. If you're getting a signal back from YouTube, from the algorithm, this is good stuff, then do more of it. And think of other ways to present it and other ways to help people out. And I think more and more in this age where there's such an availability of information, we can type a prompt into an AI and we can have, an essay back on any subject we can imagine. We can go to Google's Notebook LM and upload a document and have 2 virtual podcast hosts discuss it.
Yep.
It's absolutely nuts. So in this age where there's so much availability, I think it's about being unique, being human, and connecting with others and building communities around what you're doing. And that's something I'm really trying to work on right now at this point in my business, is building a community around what I do. Because I think human connection is going to be important. Human connection's
a bit, glad you brought that up. You're bringing up a lot of things I want to get into, so hopefully we can get to all of them in the 3 hours that we have to get. No, you're freaking him out. And he's like, 3 hours? This is a side tangent. Maybe we have enough time to get there, but AI is, amazing production tool, like incredible production tool that saved me a lot of time. That's a whole nother episode. But the one thing I think a lot of people get confused, and I'm glad you brought this up, is that they use AI to replace humanity, not supplement humanity. So just an example is they will use AI to and I don't know if we have disagreements on this or not, but they will use AI to generate the questions for their show or generate the content for their show and essentially have AI do all the human work. And then they wonder well, I don't understand why people don't care about this stuff. And I'm like, AI shouldn't replace the human. AI should be used as a tool to make you more human. And so as an example, one client I'm working on, they produce a podcast. That's their work. They do the research, they do the hard work, they do the conversations. It's an incredible product. AI writes the very brief summary for for like their web page. And then they go through and because, it hallucinates a little bit. So humanity first, AI to replicate. I don't know if you have any quick comments on that, because I do want to ask about what you said about audience.
I 100% agree with what you just said, Justin. I think AI is there creatively for us creatives to jam with it, to like kind of send out ideas and see what comes back and then create the big picture stuff.
Right.
Now, there's no doubt that AI is improving, it's getting better, and we don't know fully where it's going. We can see hints and indications that it's only going to keep getting better and better and more creative. It already is creative. But I think a great example is the well-known YouTuber Casey Neistat. And he went ahead and he prompted AI and he did this brilliant video. I suggest anyone to find that video where he prompted AI and said, write me a script for a Casey Neistat style video in New York City. And essentially he did exactly what the AI told him to do. And the video was soulless. I think this is the message, the story he was trying to tell us. It was soulless. He's like, now I'm on a skateboard. Now I'm walking down to the subway. Now I'm doing this. And it was all very formulaic. So it can give you ideas, but you really still need that human input to make it into something great. It's a great junior producer or junior editor or junior software engineer that you can jam with. And, the more information you give it, the better the result you're going to get, of course.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. AI is a tool to allow, humans, the whole purpose of content is humans connecting more deeply to other humans. That's the entire point. And in my belief, maybe I'm one of the guys that'll be wrong later, but in my belief, AI will never be able to out-human a human. And so that's why I think humans always need to be in the driver's seat of content. But I want to push into what you said. You mentioned something really key that most brands gloss right over, which is really focusing on audience. And this, I know even saying this sounds so freaking stupid. It sounds so stupid, but even for myself, it's easy to get distracted by content I think I would like versus content the audience would like. And so as a brief example, like scheduling guests, only within the last month did I realize I have a really good strategy for getting guests. And it's like, getting some huge name guests on this show. I just kind of assumed like, this isn't that hard. You just said, well, it actually is a strategy. So I was like, well, crap, I didn't. And that's only because I was talking to a customer and they were like, well, we don't know how to do that. And I'm like, what? No, it was actually my wife said, ask your customer about this. And she was like, Justin, I don't think people know how to schedule guests. And I'm like, it's not that. Oh, so what is there like a particular strategy that you use to make sure you're answering and you're giving the content to the audience? Because it's like the 3 rules in podcasting I always tell my clients are audience, audience, and audience. So like, how do you figure out? Clearly, you've figured out something. How do you figure out what they want?
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were discussing earlier as well about knowing what you know and not knowing what you don't know, and then assuming that everyone knows you know how to do the thing you can do really well, right? See, everyone knows how to schedule guests on a podcast, but so it's about listening to your audience, asking for feedback on a regular basis, and really engaging with your audience where they happen to be. So not trying to make them show up somewhere else and say, hey, I'm on X, send me a message there. If you suddenly find you're publishing a YouTube video and you're getting 100 comments there, if you're ignoring those 100 comments, then you're missing a trick. Go and read those comments. I'm very particular on reading every comment on my YouTube videos. Now, don't get me wrong, Justin, I've set up some AI tools to augment this. So I actually created an app that will not only pull in all my YouTube comments, it'll do a sentiment analysis, it'll shorten. If the comments are long, it'll give me the high level on what's being said. And I even use AI to augment and help me come up with a reply.
Brilliant.
I don't use it to write the reply for me.
I love that.
But to suggest possibilities of what I can say. And it really gives me an incredible opportunity to find out what my audience are interested in. And actually something I'm building into this app I'm making right now that I'm using is the ability to summarize all the comments on a video. So it can give me a high level, right, you did a video about noise reduction, but a lot of people didn't just want to know how to remove road noise, but they were interested in how you can remove a music track that's playing in the background. Brilliant. That's the idea for my next video.
Yeah. So it's just very intense and focused listening.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important because this is a tool most people actually do have. They just don't notice. And so if you're like a bigger corporation and you're listening, or you're a comms person or a PR marketing person at a larger entity, you probably have salespeople that are talking to your customers constantly. And it might be a good strategy to ask them, hey, what questions are you being asked? What concerns do your customers have? That might be your content strategy right there. But I noticed that basic thing that you've internalized that you just do automatically. You have processes you've set up for it. So many people don't even bother. They don't even bother. They focus on their own priorities, their own products. They don't focus on audience. They don't focus on audience interest. What is the workflow that you have? Like, is there any really, because like I've said, you put a ton of content out there. It's very good content, which is hard. That takes a lot of work. Do you have like a workflow? Do you use product management software of any kind? Is there any hack that you have to keep you consistent?
Yeah, so it's a brilliant question. I don't think there's an overall solution to this, but I think you can have lots of little systems set up. So something I work in quite a bit is Notion. And I have a lot of boards there where I'll plan out ideas, plan out content strategy. Also, I work on my main YouTube channel, work with a lot of sponsored videos. So we're always filling that up with a calendar of what's going where and what's coming up for the next 6 months or so. I will also, I find that a way that I can be more productive is if I theme my week. So if I have different things happening on different days. Now, Friday in particular is a very special day for me because that is the day without fail I record an update video where I show all of the latest AI tools and trends that I found in the week. So I know without fail I'm creating content there. And I think, setting those calendar expectations of things that you're going to be making, absolutely super important to be productive, and keeping things organized in a board like Notion, setting up automations as well. Some people use Zapier or Make to connect together different apps, so you can have sort of, when I publish a video on YouTube, talk to AI and create me 3 posts for X or something like that. Or, when I publish a video on YouTube, take the transcription of that video, summarize it, and create me a draft email newsletter. Those kind of things.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. I love that strategy.
Yeah. I'm using a lot of AI, and it's this is nothing new, really. It's that I think I've heard it before. I can't attribute the person who said it, but it's something like the content pyramid, where you create something at the top and then that trickles down to different kind of content that you can put out there. So maybe the first thing you'd create is the video. So you've got the video with the visuals, the audio, everything that's being discussed, and then that goes down to an audio version that might be edited, and then you can make it into a text version for a blog or something like that, or posts on social platforms. So you're not just creating once, but you're creating multiple times. And now with AI, it's never been easier to do things like that.
That's really creepy because I use like the same language for clients. I was like the human, and at the top of the content pyramid, I always say is the human. Yeah. The human's the top. Like if the AI is creating the questions for your interview, for example, like if I use AI, I don't think it's bad to like have AI maybe help you think of new questions to challenge your own assumptions. I think that's fine. But if AI is in the driver's seat, bad. So if AI is like at the top of the content pyramid and I'm having AI ask you questions, it's essentially, this is an oversimplification, AI people, I know, but it's essentially a really fancy 21st century copy paste. AI is going to repeat what it already saw out there. It's brilliant at that, but it's a pattern recognition tool. And so, yeah, I love that. You have okay. So your professional radio experience, you mentioned some things earlier, and this is one of the things that I think terrifies individuals in like the corporate sense, producing content. But you learned about deadlines through your radio. Like, and honestly, this sounds silly, but deadlines are kind of hard for some bigger entities to hit. Like, you need to produce content every week. Like you don't have all this time to delay deadlines and try to no. You have to, like, I think when I was on radio just doing one show a week, I was doing 4 interviews a week. We would put 4 interviews in that 2-hour slot. So what are some other things that really helped create, I don't know what the right word is, Mike, really helped inspire what you do now from radio? You mentioned hooks. Let's start with that one. Like, corporate clients don't understand the value of, like, you have to constantly hook your audience and get them interested. They're not just going to stick around. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I certainly can. Well, I'm a YouTuber, so I have the luxury that YouTube kind of analyzes the first 30 seconds of a video. And that's very important. When you go into the YouTube studio, it'll say, a larger percentage of your audience kept staying watching for that first 30 seconds, or a lower proportion of your audience. Now, 30 seconds, that is a luxury, because I know I may also be talking to some people who are short form creators. That's obviously very popular, very trendy, particularly in the younger demographic, to be on spaces like TikTok, Reels, and places like that. And then you have even less time. You probably have a second before someone's decided they need to swipe their finger and get rid of you. So really, that is critical. And that is essentially a hook. Now, as a YouTuber, I've got that nice 30 seconds to play with, but I really see it as the first 10 to 15 seconds of a video.
Yes.
And I see that as absolutely critical when I create content. I think very, very intently about what I'm going to say at the top of the video. And actually, in actual fact, I will also think of what the title of the video and the thumbnail is going to look like before I even hit record.
Really?
So I know where I'm going. I know what I'm trying
great.
to solve. And I go straight in and I say, in this video, I am going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're gonna come away with this by the end of the video, kind of thing. And not only will I do that, when I finish recording the video and I'm in the editing process, I will take screen flows or B-roll or captures of exciting parts of the video, and I will literally montage them up front as much as I can, so that not only am I explaining to the viewer what's going to happen in the video, they're seeing a preview of what's to come. And that is my favorite way of hooking people in. I think you need to give really good value up front so people stick around and they say, okay, yeah, this looks really good. I'm in the right place. So many, again, it's what you know and what you don't know. So many people starting in YouTube, they don't think about hooks at all.
No.
And so it's like, oh, hey guys, welcome to the channel. So glad you could join me. Yeah, my cat's in the background, and you've lost them.
And you lost them.
They're on to the next video.
Yeah, they're like, what is the point of this? And it's funny to me that, like, radio informs that decision, because that's the time you have. Someone's in their car, they're switching around, and if they don't hear something within that 15, 20 seconds, like, I don't know if it's different in the UK, but we were always told people are rotating in and out every 15, maybe 20 minutes. So you constantly, that on the radio, if you're wondering why people say, for those just joining us, or, and we're joined today by Mike Russell of music. And you're like, I already know that. You told me that 10 minutes ago. That's why they're doing it, because the audience keeps rotating. But what's funny is the audience is also rotating on YouTube. This is a very similar practice. And in journalism, written journalism, we call that a nut graph, right? Because I used to write for some papers, and they're like, dude, I was like burying the lead, and I was putting the great stuff down. And my editor's like, dude, that needs to be in the first 2 sentences. I'm like, yeah, but that ruins the flow of the piece. And he's like, your audience doesn't care about flow of the piece. Your audience is going to give you about, to your credit, 10 to 15 seconds. They're going to say, is this going to be worth my time? If it's not, they're going to dump it. They're going to go on to something else. Are there any particular other strategies? I want to ask about promotion and stuff, but are there any other strategies that you feel like that radio deadline, that high pressure situation really informed your content growth strategy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So many good tips and ideas that have come from radio that I've managed to adapt and use in terms of content creation and YouTube creation. One of them is absolutely, in a way, what you've referred to there about, hey, we're sitting down with Mike Russell, we're talking about this, that, and the other. Very important to me is, if you would like something to happen, if you would like your audience to take a certain action, ask them to do it. So, don't just assume, hey, I've made a good enough video there. People are obviously going to subscribe to my channel. Ask them. And this is what I do. And I've been doing this more and more. I used to be very bad at it. But on the new channel, I'm asking for like and subscribe. And I will always throw it in after I've dropped something valuable. So I don't come up front and say, hey, it's Mike here. Like and subscribe. Let's get into the content. I'll drop a value bomb. And then I'll say, wow, this is really cool, isn't it? We're going to move on to the next thing. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying what you see.
Yeah. What was that?
It sounded like I was on air traffic control for a second.
It's just, I think it makes people feel a little better that like when you're doing live stuff, like even professionals who have all this stuff, like stuff happens. I remember being on like, because again, we both did live radio. Crazy stuff happens and you got to roll with the punches. Man, I was doing a live show at the Iowa State Fair once. And someone broke into the studio during a live show and said, I'm going to kick your bleepity bleep, and I was just sitting there and, the guy who was guarding the door, he kind of got past him. He knew judo. And so he like took him down. But my guest was there like wide eyed and I'm like, so anyway,
nice.
And this person was horrified.
You got to deal with everything.
Do you have just I told you half an hour. I'm very strict on timelines. Do you have just a few extra minutes though? I don't want to push
Absolutely.
you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask, are there any special nut graph stuff, hooks up front, huge stuff? Are there any tactical promotion strategies you used to grow that YouTube channel? Like, did you partner up with other creators? Did you do any PR stuff? Did you tap into existing networks? Is there anything you did, or was it just straight up dumb luck, organic growth?
Yeah, a lot of it, the headline really, a lot of it has been organic growth through search. And things again have changed in the age of AI. So yeah, for the last 14 years or so, I've done really well, ranking well for certain keywords in the audio editing industry, and people would find my videos first. Some people even tell me they search for a certain thing they're trying to do, and 3 videos of mine come up in position 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
so
that's how I found you.
Incredible. That's been amazing for my channel. But more and more now, I'm finding that starting to change with other ways of people searching now, not just YouTube, but people are using Perplexity and obviously ChatGPT to get instant AI curated answers. And even YouTube, to a certain extent now, will present relevant parts of a video in a Google search result, and you click through and it'll show you just the bit you need to see to get the info you're after. So search has been a big one. Now in today's age, I'm kind of growing more over what is new and happening right now. So staying on top of the trends and bringing those trends to my audience. So rather than relying on search now, I'm relying on the YouTube recommendation engine and getting a lot of referrals that way. But otherwise, I've grown, like you asked me, Justin, is yes, I've done many collaborations with relevant people in my kind of industry, in the area I serve. But a big one for me really was, and still is, partnering up with companies that are providing a service in my industry. So audio companies, SaaS companies that are providing audio services. And as you mentioned earlier, working closely with Adobe over the years.
Right.
I did a fantastic giveaway. It's a few years ago now. An amazing giveaway where I partnered up and pulled in a load of other audio companies. And it was brilliant because I was promoting them. They were promoting me on their social channels, and the YouTube channel grew significantly over that time period as a result.
That's absolutely brilliant. Find where your audience already exists and provide value there. That's a huge... If there's one thing to take away, it's probably that, because things don't, like, you didn't just sit back in your house and just throw content at the wall. There were very specific strategies. You focused on audience value, and then you went out to find the audience and went in. You didn't try to coax them over. You just jumped right into their existing networks and said, look, here's who I am. Here's the value I can offer, with hopes that they were going to find, and they would come into your actual network and follow your stuff, which they did. Last thing before we go, I didn't want to get into the nitty gritty of like audio production and stuff like that, because that's what your whole channel is. So obviously people should go subscribe. I mean, if you want to get into podcasting and anything audio, I will say video for me wasn't that big of a deal. I set up 3-point lights. I set up a cool camera that has it's actually a 200 millimeter camera. So the camera I'm speaking to you on is like way across the room. This is why I get the little blurry background back here.
Nice.
But audio sucks, man. As you know, the thing we discussed, like it is brutal to get it right. So someone wants to start a YouTube channel, great content. Obviously, the core stuff is most important. Audience and getting a pace and, finding new content frequently, listening to your audience. That stuff's huge. But here's the big question. If someone wants to get started on this, professionalism, you talk about this a lot too, does matter. Like we could get into this topic, but we don't have the time. But polished audio, polished video do make people perceive that the content and the educational value are better. I think it's called sensation transference. It's a whole nother topic. But if someone wants to get started, they don't have a ton of money, they don't have a huge studio, are there some basic starting points you tell them, like, provided the core content is this board's fine, this camera's fine, set it up this way, here's how you do your lights, all in, you're under $200, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there just a basic starting point if people want to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Get started right away. And if you can focus on anything, get your audio sounding good, because people really do pay attention. They can put up maybe with a slightly worse looking video, but when it's audio that's
so
off,
true.
We notice that. So get yourself a nice microphone. Start with a USB microphone that plugs straight into your computer, or buy yourself one of the wireless mics that can clip on, especially if you're doing interview stuff and you're on the move. That's a great way to go. Get that audio quality good and take advantage of some of the AI tools that are out there that can enhance voice quality, such as Adobe Enhance. And there are many other products available from different companies that will do that for you. So much so that many people can now record something on their phone and have it enhanced and make it sound much, much better, like it's studio quality. And I think actually I heard somewhere that the recent microphones added to the iPhone 16 are incredible and can almost pull in a studio sound now. I think we're going to get to the stage where, that good quality microphone is going to be in everyone's pocket, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And, basics, just get good light on your face, get the camera up to eye level, stuff like that. Not brown nosing you at all, but if you're a listener and you're thinking about creating great content, not kidding. Subscribe to Mike's show. Mike Russell, the founder of Music Radio Creative. What's the most direct path for people to go over and subscribe to the YouTube channel and find your stuff?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, the best way is to go to YouTube and type my name in, Mike Russell, and I'll pop up there. That's the very best way to find me. And subscribe. That would be great.
And that's 2 S's, 2 L's for those that don't know. And just full disclosure here, I did hire you. What was that? A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because I have the studio I'm in right now. I have been obsessing over audio for years, and I was using some of the auto settings first, and then I started dialing it in myself. I wanted to make it sound better, and I was just hitting a brick wall. So I brought you in, and I'm pretty sure you saved me just like 10 to 20 hours, probably more of time. I mean, I could have used this 2 years ago. Some of my show qualities would have been better by talking to you. Some of my workflows would have been easier. And so, get help if you need it. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the Justin Brady Show. Honor to have you.
Thank you, Justin. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you.